Quiet on the set. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. I'm Dear Myrtle, your not so retired friend in genealogy. Welcome to Mondays with Myrt, where we talk about anything and everything that's come across our GENEA-desk in the last 2 weeks since we met. Gosh, this is new, a meeting every other week instead of every week and then taking a long break. What we're trying to do is just try something different this year. Let's see who's out there. We've got, well, Dan, he's on the panel. I know that. He's here from Waterloo, frozen to death, he says. Thankful for furnace and your office space heater. Yeah, sometimes we do need auxiliary heat in the Northern Hemisphere this time of year. Yeah. Let's see. Sean is saying they're hovering around 0 in Wisconsin. Yeah, you are one of those northern states here. Hi, Karen. All those zeros and below. Yeah. Linda Stufflebean and I spent a lot of time together this past week. She's the new president-elect, well, president pro tem of the Genia Bloggers group. She's in Arizona, and we're all coming for lunch, Linda. Be prepared. Bobby's here from Granite Bay. Good to see you. Arlington, Washington, my neighbor just down I-5, just a couple of exits. Yeah, and a ferry ride. It takes a ferry ride to get to you. You take 0 degrees rather than your minus 25, and that is dang cold. Let's see what's happening. Lynn Tenney's here. Yep, we got 2 Minnesotans here. Hillary, what's your weather like there?
We have got it. It's been overcast, but we're not got it too cold. It's just gets a bit cool overnight. So we have had snow here this year, more than we did last year, but not.
Well, you do live in Snowdonia, so you got to have snow.
Yeah, we do have snow up on the hills, more than we have snow down in the valley. So
yeah, well, that's how it is here too. But last year we had snow at this week of the month in January. So we have 3 members of the panel who had water challenges this week. And I hope I don't. The rest of us are, crossing our fingers and saying our prayers that our lines don't freeze or people don't slip down the road like Cousin Dave had happen. Somebody slipped down your road, Dave, and they, what was that? They crashed into you're muted, darling. Remember, you're muted. He's not listening.
I could hear me. I don't know why you guys.
I know.
Young guy, he didn't know enough to pump the brakes. He's coming down this very slight incline, so he slammed on the brakes, and of course the car swerved over to the right, got up on the tree belt, but he was going slow enough that it just hit the fire hydrant and knocked it into my driveway.
The fire hydrant was knocked over.
It's just the fire hydrant. We haven't had a fire here ever, so I really wasn't too worried about it. But
yeah,
the city came up about 1 o'clock in the morning and put it all back together again. So.
All right, now you get to speak louder because you're very soft. I know we've been fiddling with our sound. Let me ask Jill, you're up there in Denver area, greater Denver area visiting.
Yes.
Is it pretty cold and snowy up there?
Well, I'm actually up in the mountains. I'm at about 9,700 feet of sea level.
I would need CPR from those hands of fire.
It's a little tough getting up the stairs, I will admit. It's -8 and dropping here in the middle of the day, which is highly unusual. So it's really chilly.
Yeah, that doesn't include the wind chill.
No, and it's quite blustery out. Yeah, yes. None of the family is skiing today. It's a little too
chilly.
Yeah, a little too chilly.
Yeah, and they say, I don't know about you, but when I lived in Maryland, we had the lake effect from the Great Lakes hitting us. It would have to warm up to snow. It would be so cold it wouldn't snow. Hi to Marcia. Let's see. Hi, Janet. I think I've said hello to a lot of people. I hope I got you. Oh, Betty Lou's here too. Now, Betty Lou, we're not going to have a giveaway during Mondays with Myrt. We're going to have the giveaway during book club, which meets at 15 minutes after Mondays with Myrt concludes. And boy, have we got some good things to talk about. Yeah, Sean, oh yes. Okay, well, everybody's here. Let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to be talking about. First of all, I want to recognize that it is here in the United States, aside from the inauguration, which you may be hearing about, it is the day that we celebrate the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I always was taught to call him the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Let me share my screen. You longtime viewers know that old Myrt and cousin Russ totally support the concept of diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. And people want to come to a place such as Mondays with Myrt. I hope you want to come, but we want to go where people feel welcome, regardless of our background. In fact, as responsible genealogists, we need to be looking at things from that diverse point of view, from that inclusion point of view, and not judge our ancestors harshly because we weren't there at the time. Now, as far as Dr. King is concerned, this is the King Center. That is what his family has maintained. Let me put that link out on the YouTube side. The point of, I grew up in high school, which meant my brain was somewhat connected. During the time of Kennedy's presidency and subsequently Johnson's presidency, where this concept of equal rights for regardless of the color of skin was coming to the forefront. Now, our country has a terrible attitude toward people, and we don't have that attitude here. People aren't different. We have diversity. People aren't right or wrong unless you cross me regarding my grandchildren, right? Listen to old Myrt pontificating here. But the very cool thing about Dr. King, as I remember, was that he had the nonviolent approach to standing for freedom and justice and democracy. And it will be, I'm glad that this is at least one day a year that we try to think about this. The way that I handle it is to say, you know what? In this group, all are welcome. And nothing more needs to be said. Another announcement I want to make while I have this screen up. We haven't visited MyHeritage lately. They just added 11.6 billion records to their newspapers from oldnews.com, and altogether in the under the MyHeritage umbrella of their website, etc., there are 32 billion historical records now available. Let me share this link. Frank, can you share the link for people to? Can you do that and still be on the YouTube side? I don't know where you are.
I can.
Okay, you can. Thank you. That would help. That is quite a big deal that they accomplished that. And we're going to talk about blogs today and a newer thing called Substack. And this is one of the blogs that you should follow. See what the heck's going on. In fact, outside the U.S., MyHeritage is more popular than Ancestry. I said that. It is proven statistically. All right, let's have our Hillary join us for a bit. And I forgot to introduce all the panelists. Boy, I could do my job, you'd think. First of all, Randy's not here today. He got an excuse. He's got family arriving, and he's taking his brother-in-law and his wife over to visit his wife, who Angel Linda is in a skilled nursing facility. The family always comes first. And a shout out to our Melinda, who's a panelist here, usually works the YouTube side. She's under the weather, and I don't blame her. I think as soon as I'm done today, I'm going to go get a quilt and a good book, genealogically oriented, most likely, and curl up on the couch for a little while, keep warm. Let's see, Ellen, are you still in the U.S.?
Yeah, I'm still in Arizona.
Well, whatever your computer is, it's acting really well, your new computer.
I love it. Yeah.
That's good. All right, Frank, how are things in Germany?
It's quite well lately. Last week I was still ill when I got the waterline replacement. So lucky time.
You had to be home partly anyway because
I had to be home anyway. It took them around 7 hours to replace all the water lines.
It's such a mess.
Because they replaced the main water line for all the flats from the bottom to the top.
As a landlord, that is just an overwhelming task, as I'm seeing a lot of dollar signs. People who haven't met you before, who have come here for the first time, may not know that you work at an archive. Can you explain in a few sentences what type of archive it is and what kinds of things, do people actually come in and ask for stuff? I mean, what's the typical story with what you do at work? I know you moved and rearranged things.
I work for the archive of the Lower Monumental department of our city.
So it's a municipal archives, but in particular, what types of documents and things do you archive?
We have all the documents about building constructions and so on from 1874 until 1945.
Incredible. So
everything. So
are any of them scanned?
They are not scanned. They are still the original papers. And it is over, I would say, 200 to 400 individual files.
That's a lot. So my understanding of a municipal archives with building, that if I were going to buy a building that was derelict and I needed to take it down, I'd need to do my, well, I'm not an architect. We'd have to call in Jill.
Yep.
She is. I would have to, my architect would have to go to the building department, and find out what kinds of things are underground, if it were possible to put underground parking, for instance.
Yeah, but not even just this, but just imagine you have an old building or a historical monument of a building. You need to refurnish, repairs, and so on. Even the freaking color of a wall, they have to be original.
We have things
we
like
have
that.
The whole documentation about it.
I totally am excited about that. Jill, maybe you're shaking your head here. What comes to mind here in the United States? No, you were nodding. I didn't mean shaking, I meant nodding. We have the historic registers.
Right.
And there are homes like that here in the United States that are, they have to be restored to the original,
Mhm.
you can't just suddenly add a wraparound porch, right?
Yes, that's basically true. I've actually done a couple of applications myself for historic register status, commercial buildings mainly. And it all depends on what kind of a application you're going for. There's different levels. And in the two that I've done, they were exterior only. And so the inside was not protected. So the owner could, in fact, put offices in a large residential facility as long as the exterior was maintained pristine. So, but then you can get other kinds where it's the entire building. And it's the interior as well as the exterior. So the main misconception is that you can never tear down a building that is on the historic register, and that is false. You do have to go through a process to get it to demolish it, but it's very difficult. Oftentimes it provides tax breaks to owners, and particularly the commercial people really like those tax breaks. And that's why we applied for historic register status, so that we could obtain those tax breaks.
Well, in Orange County, Florida, near the library, there are a number of law firms that have taken on these older homes where the exterior is still the look, the color, the same paint like Frank's talking about, but the interior was gutted to accommodate law offices.
Yeah, different use.
Yeah, and so so the walk down certain streets in Orange County, and that's Orlando, would have the same look and feel walking. It's just and it's to preserve history.
Right.
Hillary, over there in England, do they have anything like that?
Yeah, I've put a link in the comments and on the chat.
Okay,
I'll
pull it up.
Historic England.
Okay, yeah.
Same thing
we
as
do have
applies in Wales. It's just I think they've been separated out, but they're similar sort of thing.
Okay, so apparently there's 31,000 under the word London, former City of London Police Headquarters. Are they going to have a picture of it? Yep.
You're not sharing your screen at the moment.
Oh, okay. I've got it. Let me pull it up. So here it is. And, over in Russia and most of the places I've been in, Germany, have this kind of a thing where you take a city block and the buildings are around the perimeter of the block, and you go through a gate similar to this, which is the London City Archive. What is it? Former City of London Police. So it's police office headquarters, but you would enter through these gates, and I always associated that with like maybe World War II Nazi Germany, when actually that was a different way of looking at property. Here in the US, we typically buy property and put our house way back in the property. So there's a long, like in the South, a long driveway winding up, tree-lined driveway. It's just a different style of land use. And now I've come to appreciate how absolutely beautiful the entry is, and what a private area behind the opening. I think they mostly park in there. But yeah, so Frank says he's got an example. Let's pull that up. And then Daniel's going to give us something. So Frank, talk to me about this.
This is the web blog of the Gutshaus Satzkorn. This is the building as it is at the moment.
Okay.
If you scroll down further and to the second page, you
Okay.
see the old you see the old pictures of it, which is remarkable.
Okay, I don't know where to click because I don't see it.
Just give me a
Here?
second. I sent you the direct link to the first post.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, let's see if this is the same page. Okay. Oh my, that's what it looks like.
This is the before picture
Yeah.
when they needed to put a help roof of it because the original roof was already falling inwards.
I can see this. My golly. And then this is the I guess I've lost it. Where is it? Okay, that's our goal.
And this is the same house.
Oh, they're like in the middle of or toward the end of construction.
They are already have reopened the original entrance, as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
They rebuilt all of the missing windows in the roof,
Mm-hmm.
and so on. It's remarkable what they did.
Wow. So I'm very excited when I see buildings cared for like this. It's not always economical to do it, though, is it, Jill?
No, it's not. So you have to, in the U.S., when they supply those tax breaks, that's what helps a lot.
Help ameliorate the
cost, and you have to have a large number of very talented people who are historic preservationists to do paint explorations and material explorations, and just how was it built before? And sometimes buildings are placed on the historic register because they had an important event held there, not that their building itself was that strong architecturally, but that there was an event there that occurred there that was important.
Right, like the birth of somebody.
Yes.
Yeah. So the use of it was not like the London police, the former London police
right.
office, but it could have been, yes. Wow. Well, thank you. Now let's see what Daniel has added. Daniel, welcome back, Cotter. That was a TV program here. I don't know if you had it there. So this is the National
Built Heritage Service. So this is a website done by the Department of Local Government, Heritage, Housing, Local Government and Heritage.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially you can look up the name of a building and you can get a kind of a background of it. The one I get you to put in just as an example is there's ones there. So if you pick one of those, you will kind of get the, I suppose, backstory on one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll kind of give you little photos of, and it'll give you a bit of a history about it.
Wow.
And it's really handy when you're trying to get an idea, and that's it on an old map. So trying to actually, I suppose, just sort of understand what the building might have been used for and what its purpose was. It's a good way of, I suppose, understanding that.
To put it in the context of its environment too.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, it makes me nervous when I see roof lines or like this. I worry. We get this here in the Pacific Northwest. We get a lot of lichen and moss that collects on our roofs, and they have to be cleaned periodically. And man, those steps need help. Let's see if they haven't shown us. Well, that's a typical historic blue on the wall, kind of an aquamarine color. Yeah. What a grand staircase. Of course, they didn't have carpeting then like that necessarily. It was more like the Aubusson we see here. But look at the old wood flooring. They kept it. Wow. Okay. Oh my gosh. Look at the railing. Wow. And I want to talk to you about this wallpaper. If you go to Andrew Jackson's home, I can't remember where it is, Hermitage, not the Hermitage of St. Petersburg, the Hermitage. The wallpaper doesn't come in long rolls where you start at the top and roll down and then cut it. They're little rectangular panels. And this wallpaper definitely makes me think of that. So the panels are, I don't know, 36 inches wide and 24 inches tall. And then you just paste up or replace that section if there's a problem. It was just a different way of thinking of wallpaper. When you went to school, Jill, did they talk about those kinds of things in architecture? I guess that's decorating more than
not so much. Certainly exterior, we were talking about materials, but no, I would say not. And that's why there's specialists that are historic preservationists, because they've been trained that way. And that's why we hired them, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no one person can know it all. Okay. No. All right. Well, very interesting. Okay. So let me get back to saying hello to all our panelists. Cousin Dave is here. I'm glad that all is right with the world in your front yard right now. What have you been doing lately? You're a busy man.
Well, I'll give you one quick little story. I was in for my 115th blood donation at the Red Cross the other day, and one of the phlebotomists, she's a bit of a, well, anyway, she came up to me. She says, "I know you do family research." I said, "Yeah, that's exactly what I do. It's how I almost make a living." And she said, "I found this ring in a field." And she did the research. She got the initials that were in the ring, the year of graduation, and it was from Chicopee High School. So she did the research to find out whose ring it was. So she asked me if I could find this woman. And to make a very long story short, this woman, and she's up in Alaska now somewhere, but I finally got a hold of her through classmates.com, believe it or not. See, we use everything we can find. This woman was so ecstatic. She lost the ring 3 months after she graduated in 1970. So it's been gone for 52 years. And this young phlebotomist found it. So I don't want to be in the middle of this, though. So I connected one to the other and let them figure out how they're going to mail it and where they're going to mail it and all this other stuff. So that's my hero story for the week. That's
a pretty good thing. Yeah. Seldom do we actually get to do those kinds of reunion stories. We tend to think of genealogists as dealing with dead people. We seek them. We see dead people. But with DNA and the research that we do there, genealogists are becoming more proficient. You mentioned classmates.com, and this is a very legitimate site. It's been around for a while. There's the link. I'm listed there. And so are my classmates. And sadly, at our age, we're starting to see that some of our classmates have passed on. But what a great resource. Thank you for mentioning that. Okay, let's see. Who's next? Dan. We've got Dan and Daniel here today. So Dan, you brought up this, you responded to the request to talk about Substack.
I did,
so
yes.
We're going to be doing that in a minute with Daniel as soon as we get done with our introductions. How are things up there in Canada? What have you been doing genealogically lately?
I've been doing quite a bit of writing, and that's a part of why I've become interested in Substack and learning about it.
Yes.
One of my goals for 2025 is to write more about my ancestors and share some of their stories.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been my main genealogical focus lately.
Well, but you did a little bit of work on your blurring tool, didn't you?
I have been. I've been doing lots of development over the holidays, and I was able to release a new update for my genealogy blurring tool. I've spoken about it on the program before, but
Hmm.
I had some time snowed in here in Canada to add some updates that I'd wanted to add to it for a while over the holidays.
So the updates include an additional website.
So the updates, so now it's one extension and it covers all of the websites that I support. So Ancestry, MyHeritage, Family Search, and Family Tree DNA.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a single application to cover all of those websites. And a new feature that it has is it will, instead of blurring your match names, your DNA match names that you don't want to broadcast if you're doing, say, a screenshot or a live video, instead of blurring it, it will automatically replace the names with generic placeholder like match 1, match 2. So you can reference specific matches without them just kind of being blurred out and still protect their privacy.
So a little more useful.
Yeah, it's something that I've wanted to add for a while.
Very useful. So when you made this announcement publicly on Facebook, that's where I spotted it. I was pretty excited because one of the genealogy standards codified by the Board for Certification of Genealogists is that we must protect the right to privacy of living individuals. And it comes up when we're talking about DNA, because that's pretty personal. And
Definitely.
so when it used to be that we'd take a screenshot if we were giving a class. We could never do it live because we couldn't blur without using your genealogy blurring tool. Try saying that 3 times fast. And if we were teaching a class and wanted to do a screenshot, we'd have to then manually go into each one of these and fuzzy up the name, the profile name. It isn't always the real name of a person. And that took a lot of time away from the goal of creating a PowerPoint to teach a lesson. And I like to do things live, as everyone knows. So thank you for that. But when you made that post and I cross-posted it, thank you for making it public to begin with so I could share it directly. Otherwise, that person would have to be your friend and my friend in order to see it if it were private. Enough technicality. The bottom line is a lot of people got excited. More people got excited, and other people who are already using this. It's a add-on for Chrome, an extension. Is it also available on any other browsers?
Yeah, it is. It's available for Mozilla Firefox, and in the coming days, the next few days, it'll be available for Microsoft Edge on Windows.
Edge, man, you're busy. We're sending in Chinese, so you can focus on that, okay? They won't have to worry about cooking dinner. Wonderful. Thank you for that. All right. Let's see where we are with, okay, Jill, we know that you're at 9,000 feet above sea level. I can't even imagine. Salt Lake's hard for me now. What are you doing genealogically lately? Ooh, we know.
A couple of things I'm working on. One is a line of my husband that appeared when we discovered who his grandfather was, because his mother was born illegitimately. So I've been tracing that line for a little while. And I recently was enamored. Sometimes we pick an ancestor who appeals to us,
Mhm.
and Olive Arsenault appealed to me. And so I started looking for her and going back in time. Well, the French Canadian records are really wonderful. The Dewan collection is just amazing. But I also found a book that had done a compilation. I got it on interlibrary loan, and there's my family. Interestingly enough, Olive is not in her family. And so the list of the children are there with the appropriate parents, but Olive's not listed. But there's two others of the family who aren't listed either. Yet I have found in the Dewan collection then their birth records. So it was the book author who didn't get those individuals included into the compilation. There's a lesson there, I think, also, that just because it's been done in a book by someone who really knows French Canadian records, you miss some.
Yep.
So you need to go to the original records, you know.
We need the original record, and the suggestion of this is a family group might be printed in a book. But as soon as you print a book or post a blog, at least that's editable quickly. But a book, you know, as soon as you publish, new information will come along that changes that structure of the family. But you did what you could at the time. It was your current thinking, as Cousin Russ always said.
Well, and it was great having the book because it gave me a guideline, but it was all just clues. And so I think if you treat them as clues, because I think one of the things I remember, direct evidence is you've got a great record and it gives you the information to the research question. And then there's secondary information. That's from somebody who heard about that and wrote it down. But in this case, it actually has two steps. Not only did he read about it, he transcribed it, and then he compiled them into families. And so there's a two-step process, and that means there's a two-step chance of mistakes.
I know human beings are not perfect. We make mistakes. I did a presentation on Saturday for Genia bloggers, and I knew of a typo. I can remember putting my mouse there to remove the letter E from the middle of the word gamification. And when apparently I didn't save it or something. And when I opened the file and was in the middle of the presentation, there was that big E with a neon sign blinking from my typo, you know. But on the other hand, you know, we know that we need to have more than one bit of evidence, one teller of the tale. Yes, that document that may directly state something could be true or false.
Right.
We don't know yet. We need to have corroborating evidence.
So basically, I was writing up a research report on her, thinking I had a brick wall, that I didn't know who her parents were. And all of a sudden I realized I not only know her parents, but her family line goes all the way back to the original settlers in New Brunswick in 1648.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Very, very cool. Whereas my people, they only came over I did have some 1679 Quakers to Pennsylvania, but other than that, okay. Daniel is here. Daniel, you're on a break from university studies, or where are you? I know you're in Ireland.
I know. No, I've been back at university for a week now, so this is my second week back. So yes, our last week was kind of like okay, we'll take it gently, slowly, and now we're just going to go back in full steam ahead for another 12 weeks, or 11 now. But it's sort of it'll be interesting to see where it goes, and hopefully I'll have an idea of what I'm going to do in second year and third year. So
well, let me assure you that every one of my daughters and all of my grandchildren that have attended the university have changed their mind. This is a phenomenon. It's not an unusual phenomenon. It's a regular occurrence. If in my own family, not that we're an exemplary family, but anyway. And I have one person in the family who decided that going to trade school is better than the university.
Good.
Although that particular grandchild is very studious, just didn't like it.
Yeah.
And didn't like the university setting. And we now know here in the United States, you've heard how expensive it is to go to college here. And it actually is, if you go to trade school for 2 years and then become a journeyman plumber to help Dave and Frank and some of us, they actually come through it with little to no expense in the way of a student loan, and they have a pretty good job, like $80,000 to $90,000 right out of the starting gate. So over time, they're going to probably do better. It's not uncommon to hear of university students graduating and even being in their master's program, which is the next level up as far as degrees are concerned, who can't get a job and are living in their parents' basements. So it's how it is. Let's see. We got some comments from the community. I think this has to do with, whoops, there you are.
Oh yeah, that was my telling you about the buildings website.
Things moved rather quick. This thing just flies by sometimes. This is the one I wanted to show. It's good when we can laugh at our own mistakes. Not that switching gears is a mistake. I think she's referring to my typographical error.
No, it was that one, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Betty Lou says, after you start your studies, sometimes you find there are other similar areas that you are more interested in. However, I do know you're very interested in Project Infant, the mother and baby institutions in Ireland. You're in the middle of a sticky wicket situation as far as you're making great progress with volunteers who are, moving this along by identifying the infants. Talk to me a little bit about what's happening there. There are some political ramifications as well. You don't have to address it if you don't want to.
Oh no, I can address it.
I know you have to be nice to the politicians. So
I will be civil, don't you worry. But no, I did a bit of a rejig on the homepage because I was just changing it around because what I've realized is I've been kind of doing the research into mother and baby homes that I have added a new area on that part, which is the industrial school children. Because industrial schools were kind of, I suppose, they were schools for anyone, I think, from the age of 4 up to 16, 17, 18. And they were sort of, they weren't great places either. It was kind of in the whole collective of institutions that mother and baby homes and Magdalene laundries would have been put into. But obviously they all had their own purposes, and I've kind of labeled them individually. I thought I had 3 industrial schools up, but it turns out I only had 2. The third one's actually sitting waiting to be uploaded, so that will be uploaded eventually. But industrial schools, they started before mother and baby homes did. They started usually around, I'd say, about the 1870s, 1880s. So whereas mother and baby homes started in the 1920s. So what I aim to do is, because Project Infant has and always will have an onus and focus on mother and baby institutions, there are, obviously people trying to get justice for those who were in the industrial schools. And my idea is that if I have the names up available for people to look at, it might give them some closure, and it also might help them in whatever endeavors they wish to undertake in trying to seek justice for industrial school survivors. And with especially with I suppose with my kind of skill set and kind of my, you know, I suppose willingness to cover it all, or at least try and find the names if I can. That's kind of how that new edition has popped in. But
So I
now
suppose
that
these lists are they always male that go to industrial schools? Is that because women or girls would be becoming domestics?
No, not necessarily. You did have boys' schools. So Letterfrack and the other one, which is Salt Hill, they were both boys' industrial schools. But there were girls' industrial schools as well. I just try and research them as I find them. So it's a similar template to how the site for mother and baby home children works, where it's just so like it tells you where they were from, it tells you when they died. Family info is not really used as much for this. It's only if we have or we were able to connect kind of where the children were from, which I have not done a whole lot. And it takes you to the button takes you to Irish Genealogy, which is where their death certs are. So, oh yeah, you just stick in like you could just stick in like Dear Myrt. So yeah, so like just do Pat Erickson or Pat Ritchie Erickson as your name, or you could just do initials. It'll take anything. It just looks to prove that it is a real person who is accessing the site. You do have to do both, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to do last name as well. Just so it's, and then it'll take you to the death certificate there. So it was for, I believe it was for Thomas Carroll.
I just picked one generally. So now I'm looking at a PDF.
Yeah, so that is the link to the actual page. But the one I think you clicked on to was Thomas Carroll, who's the fourth one down.
Oh, golly, you're really good at reading his handwriting. Oh, yeah, Thomas Carroll here. Can I zoom in a little? Let's see.
Yeah, bottom right-hand side. Oh, no, there you go.
Oh, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Yeah. Okay. So this connecting directly to the certificate sounds pretty interesting to me. That's a new partnership, isn't it? Basically, an agreement that you could do that.
All it is just sort of a link kind of to the Irish government's website that has all of them. But I did get their blessing for kind of doing this project, so that kind of made it, I suppose,
a major thing, and that's why I asked, because that's a feather in your cap. That's progress. That really is.
Yeah.
Excellent. A bachelor at 11 years of age, but I understand. Okay. All right. Well, Daniel, thank you for that. We are going to be talking more with you about when it comes to Substack. But I need to ask Hillary, what have you been doing genealogically lately?
This weekend there was a WikiTree Connectathon. I didn't participate in the Connectathons last year, but I have done this year. I actually joined a different team because the team that I was usually on, most people that on that team decided they weren't participating. I joined the new members team because I help with the new members. We have a Zoom sessions twice a month, and I help with those. So I've been joined in with that team and helping new people to WikiTree be able to, if they got stuck, helping advise people.
So what is Connectathon? Because occasionally we get new people here.
The Connectathon is really where we just we try to add new people on, but new people have to be added on to a profile that's already existing. In other words, add on more family, so that maybe by adding on more family, like a spouse or parents or whatever, you connect to either a profile that's already on WikiTree, or you can, or it provides a step for somebody else to connect to somebody already on the tree, so that we can connect everybody together.
And so these are people that are volunteers, and that, like you, I could do it, and they're not necessarily working on their own lines.
No, I mean, I did work on mine most of the time. I think there was one set time when I was working on some that I thought was my line, but it wasn't. It was just somebody with the same surname in the same county. So I was working on things and that. But a lot of mine, I worked on what we call the CC7, which is anybody that is connected to you within 7 degrees. So it could be somebody that was not a blood relative, so it could be via marriage. So you might, your uncle might have married somebody, and it might be their person they married. It might be their relatives rather than your own. But I worked on some of those as well this time, and trying to connect. I connected one person up. I think this was some family that I was trying to add in, some newly discovered family. So.
Well, so do you do this once or twice a year?
They have 3 connect-a-thons a year at the moment, and 1 source-a-thon when we try to make sure that we add sources to anybody that is already on WikiTree, and make sure that they're properly sourced with at least 1 source on them, and that. So, but the connect-a-thon that we've just finished, they actually broke through from the figures that they were trying to get. I will actually put how many the result. They actually created over 100,000 profiles. I've just put it in the chat there. How many
I see that,
actually
101,850 new profiles. I wish that they did this at Family Search. I wish that they had a community like you have at WikiTree. It's still one big tree, and people can make changes. They haven't killed off my Uncle Jack. Well, although he has passed away, and I have that entered. But the emphasis on working together as a community to that is extremely important. And the participants, I don't know how many people participated in the Connect-a-thon. The people on the screen that we saw a few minutes ago were just the people that were major leaders. Like you've been in the past in charge of a certain part of England because that's where your research is. You kind of know the territory and the record sets. And when they focused on my genealogy years ago, the challenge, they broke down the brick wall, and I know who Dolly Yaki's parents are because somebody and it was actually right under my nose, but I didn't realize it because I wasn't thinking outside the box for how to spell names that I should have thought more phonetically, but you'd think we would figure this out by now. But when you look at a tiny little, it's the Semendinger list of who came over from England to upstate New York. It's a very small list. It was in way before this country was a country. It was a bunch of colonies of England or Spain. That list survived. I knew of it, but I didn't read beyond. I didn't study it as well as I should have. And I'm thankful to the folks that are volunteers at WikiTree who helped make that breakthrough for me. They also found other Rev Wars of U.S. Civil War, servicemen, etc. I mean, it was incredible, the things that the volunteers do. So folks, do look at WikiTree.
Before I did the Connect-a-thon, I was actually working on, they had a WikiTree challenge, and they were working on the tree for Catherine Lake Hogan.
Oh yeah,
and she's got quite a lot of Welsh ancestry, and I was working on some of the Welsh side, so just to make a change.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me tell you, I appreciate everything. I'm always in favor of spotlighting WikiTree. But let's shift gears a little bit. Now, you all may have noticed that I did not bring up Ellen. And that's because I know what she's been doing lately genealogically, and we are going to be discussing that in her homework. This is what homework looks like. Let me share that screen. She submitted homework for our study group. We're working on mastering genealogical proof, and she's talking about how something that Dr. Jones said inspired her. It has to do with sources are containers, not content. The source refers to the entire item, not the information within it. Man, if that sounds confusing, we're going to have a discussion after Mondays with Myrt during book club. And this is just one of the 3 homework assignments that were submitted. I only have 4 people on the panel, and it's a brief overview. And we're looking at chapters 1 and 2. And I'm going to forget to do this, so let me put this in here. Where is it? Let me pull Jill up. And I forgot and cut you off before we got to talk about applied genealogy. And then we're doing Substack, I promise. This wasn't a lost leader that I kept Substack at the end, guys. I'm giving Daniel a chance to rest after dinner. So, all right. I recommend institutes for the very fact that it is instructor-led and it's intense.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a college semester's worth of a course compressed into a week. But the way you register is different, and it's
Yes.
open now. So explain why there is that concept.
So when we were founded about 3 or 4 years ago, we saw that a lot of times the institutes were doing you have to have your finger on the button at the time that they open it up, otherwise you don't get in, and there's angst about it, and then the website would crash and that sort of thing. And we just decided, the 3 founders, Mary Roddy, myself, and Lisa Grell, we decided that that just causes too much angst. We don't like the angst. We don't want our website to fall apart on everybody. We don't want to have a whole bunch of tech masters behind it or a lot of capacity to handle a whole lot of people. And so what we did was we said, okay, we're going to register instead over a week. So this year, for the classes this year, we've designated between the 15th of this month, 15th of January to the 22nd of January for registration.
Mm-hmm.
And you just fill out this form, and then you'll be placed on a long list for your first choice and second choice.
Mm-hmm.
When that happens, then we run a lottery where we take those names that want that class, if there are more than the class size allows. And we only have 15 students per class. That makes us very unusual as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have more people who want to get into the class than 15, we run a lottery. And basically what we do is one of the applications is a random number assignment, and we'd assign a random number, and then we'd put it in order. And that's the order in which people would get in, and the top 15 would get in. So we then notify the potential student, this is where we're at. You've made it in or you haven't made it in, and you're on the wait list. So we do keep a wait list. Oftentimes we're, excuse me, oftentimes we're at a situation where we have a couple of people who need to drop out because, somebody ran into their fire hydrant or, something happened. And so they can't attend. So they inform us. And then we go to the wait list. And that's just basically how it works.
Okay.
So Karen asked a question about what's the skill set needed for AGI. Well, it's a little different for each class, but basically, so you can be a beginner doing Irish research, but an expert at genealogy. So you want to read the description of the classes to see, because I've always been puzzled by how to fill out whether this is a beginner class or a beginner intermediate or an intermediate advanced kind of thing. So some of them are more advanced and some of them are intermediate and some of them are very beginning. It just depends on where you're at.
The concept here is this is a big step up from going to a conference where you as an individual attendee pick and choose what classes you might like to take. And then it's a one class, and then you have to go in the hallway and go away across the Salt Palace to another class or have lunch or whatever it is. This is spending dedicated time on a topic.
Right.
And in that classroom, and I know all but your law instructor. But I know that if you picked her as an instructor, that and she's a JD, so
of course
you have to know the law. But the instructors of an institute are pretty high profile and very capable of dealing with the fact that they might have a beginner in Irish who's a good genealogist. So, they're pretty good at saying, chill, we're doing this, then we build to that, then we build to that over the week's time period. So Karen is already giving you good feedback. She likes the concept of learning and doing. So she read that.
I think that's really, that's another thing that makes the Applied Genealogy Institute unique, is because we have a week in between times and there is always homework. And we expect you to turn that homework into the instructor in advance. And by the way, you get one-on-one responses to your homework. So all of that is very different than other institutes. So we're tiny, we know it. We're kind of a little rebel sitting out there. But we think we've got a great concept, and for those of you who don't want to go like to a conference and go to class to class to class and then forget what the first class was about, this is a way where we cement that information into your knowledge, into your head, so that you really get a good background so you can start applying it to your own family. For my classes, I kind of run two things. One is the homework tests their what we learned that week, and then they apply it to their then there's a problem about applying it to your own problem. So there's always two parts to at least my assignments that I give to the students, and I'm teaching this year.
Okay. All right, so I'm locking up and I can't get back to the StreamYard studio, so I need to ask Hillary. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for being patient with me about the registration. Dang, everything's locked up. So this is a computer issue, not my internet. Hillary, could you bring up the two Dans? And I would like to have, let's have Dan start on the subject of Substack. And I'm apparently going to have to go out and come back in again. And so my understanding of Substack is that Dan is going to be talking about it from just start talking, and I'll come back as soon as I can get there. Okay.
Happy to. Substack was something that I got keyed into last year sometime. It's been around for quite a while, I think about 7 or 8 years now. And what Substack is it's an online publishing platform similar to a blog where you have posts and archives that appear online. But it also has a large focus on delivering the content as a newsletter. So it's part of a broader push of pushing more content towards the inbox, where maybe you give it a little bit more attention than something you'd see on, say, social media, Instagram, Blue Sky, the like.
Okay, so my comment, and apparently I'm back. I don't understand this. Anyway, this to me is like a blogging platform, except we do have videos, because I just noticed that this weekend. And correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel, just unmute yourself, because you're going to need to jump in here and help old Myrt here. And when I think of a blogging platform, a place for me to create an article, which is called a post, I'm sure it is over there, it will have a graphic of an ancestor, and it will have whatever the conundrum was that I want to report to my followers. And it will usually include a scanned image of a document that was part of that whole scenario. It's not a complete bio on that ancestor. It's just where I am at the moment, kind of a thing. And I think of blogger.com, because that's been around since the internet was practically barely formed. And I think of WordPress, and there are others, but those are the two main ones. But now all the buzz is about Substack. Daniel, you're shaking your head yes. Am I fair in saying that this is another type of a content pushing platform?
Yes, you would. So it is another blogging platform of sorts. I was never one. I kind of always wanted to blog, but I never had, I suppose, the right tools to use. So I did do it with WordPress for a while. I did do it with Medium. I did it with Blogger for a while. I did it with Weebly. That Weebly is where I started out on, which is kind of like WordPress. And I eventually just stuck with WordPress, and I never really wrote. But I'm trying to remember, because I've been on Substack for almost 2 years now, and it was. I'm trying to think how I came across it, but it was, I think I was just looking up just a generic Google search at like blogging platforms, like free blogging platforms or whatever. And I had come across it, and for some reason it just felt, nice to write on. It didn't feel clunky. It felt modern. It wasn't behind the times in terms of trying to, I suppose, in terms of the UI, it was nice and clean.
I think that Blogger is not keeping up with the times. It's a Google product. And I think WordPress has a learning curve that makes it clunky. But I want to talk with Dan about this. There's something different, because when I'm on Blogger, I'm just dealing with Blogger and not any of the other genealogy bloggers, right? When I'm on Facebook, which is a social media area, I can belong to a group like Dear Myrtle's Facebook group, where I could post the link to my blog, and people could interact with that. GENEA-bloggers, for instance, which is a consortium of like-minded bloggers and I'm a vlogger, V for video blogging. They're all content producers. They want to get the word out. But using the tools I mentioned, like right now we're using StreamYard, but we're pushing it out to YouTube, I'm still, there's not the social context with other people that I sort of am starting to see over on Substack. I could see it on the formerly place if you used a hashtag like genealogy or something like quilting or Missouri Star, because that's a big quilting company known worldwide in the world of quilting. But yeah, it really worked if you used another add-on program like Hootsuite or something, so that you could follow a whole trend on that hashtag. But it's a little different over on Substack, because there's more of a sense of community, not quite like Facebook, but it's based on writers. And now I'm entering into that space as a viewer or reader. Talk to me a little bit about that sense of community that you've been in our three-way conversation privately. You've been pushing old Myrt to understand.
Yeah, so there's really a couple parts of Substack. There's the external part, so kind of the dissemination of your writing, whether that's people are viewing it on your website or in their email inboxes. But there's also an entire Substack ecosystem on its own. So you can recommend other people's Substacks. You can chat with other Substack members in different subject groups or groups attributed to specific publications. You can have a chat that is tied to your publication. So people who are subscribers to your blog and newsletter, they can also be a part of a kind of one-to-one chat. There's live videos. There's lots of different social aspects that you can find within the Substack ecosystem, which kind of makes it appealing for somebody coming from the outside. You can quickly find some good Substacks to follow. You can interact with different communities, and it's a good way to interact with other publishers and content creators.
So let me ask this. On Blogger and WordPress and YouTube, I can receive notices if somebody has commented on my blog, and then I can, or my YouTube, and I can then go there and respond to that blog post or that YouTube video. So in that effect, I can chat back and forth. But so when I'm taking notes on what you're saying. I think I need a bigger sticky note. So when we're talking about, I can understand recommending. In a way, we do that when you look at like Randy and Linda Stufflebean and Gail up in Canada, where they do a best of for the week, that they're kind of recommending other bloggers, other authors that are content producers, because they wrote a particularly good post this past week that's on their best of list for that week. Is the chat confined to that one post, or is it bigger than that? Like, here's me, and there's an area to keep chatting, which then, or is it per post?
So there are comments on posts, just like you would see on a blog. The chat feature, in my experience, is more broad. So it would generally be kind of like a chat like we have on Facebook Messenger for different private groups. It would be more of a chat that's specific to that publication. So kind of an ongoing thread where people who are all interested in the same publication can discuss that publication or any topic that that they choose to in that chat group.
Daniel, can you tell me your take on it too? Because I'm just absorbing all this. Sounds very dynamic. What about this community aspect? Because we've gone to Threads and Blue Sky and different places to try to find a replacement for the formerly place, and also maybe wanting to get out of the big M space. I'm just trying to figure out what about the sense of community. And I think I have a question. If I set up a Dear Myrtle place, I could compose there, or I could compose here in WordPress. I don't really do that very much. I mostly do the video work. And it can, I'm interested in this community aspect of the conversation. That's why we don't want to do a lecture. Like, I'm seeing all kinds of interesting things about written reports and homework. There's a whole conversation going on with Jill and some of our attendees about the Applied Institute. And I love seeing that kind of interaction as opposed to a lecture. Somebody's written a post and they are the authority on it. I want that interaction. So talk to me about your take on that.
Sure. So, do you mind if I share my screen? Just
No, go ahead.
show.
Yeah, you share screen and I'll pull it up as soon as I see it's available.
Yeah.
So Paula is saying, maybe while you're getting prepared, I can see when yours comes up. It's starting to come in. Let's take you and then we'll go to Paula. Okay, so this is your think tank, New Beginnings.
Yeah. So so I gave it a funky name, and I just gave it a name. I tend to do my blog post names kind of rather, I suppose, vague for a reason, so that it kind of entices people. But for example, like here was the post that I wrote. This is 2 minutes towards New Year's Eve. Because that was the time when my grandmother Kathleen had died. She, on some documentation, or some people say, oh, she died on the 1st of January, but in actuality, she died 2 minutes before midnight, 31st December 1994. So I did this blog post, and I can see, 19 users liked it. So I can see, for example, Barbara Chen, who does the Project Kin community forum.
Pop-up. Look at the pop-up when you scroll over a person's name.
Yeah, so I can hover over Barbara and I can see like a little blurb for her profile. So I'm subscribed to her Substack, and I can message her privately if I wish. And if I hover over, okay, it doesn't want to work like that. Usually when you click on a publication name, it brings you to their publication, so you can see this Project Kin. And I suppose Barbara would have probably a prime example of using Substack as a genealogy blog, whereas mine looks sort of mediocre because I tend to just right away, I don't really pay attention to how it looks. But seeing Barbara's one, it really makes me want to try and work on mine a little more. So she does this really engaging approach with it all.
Freeze your frame right there. So on the first row in this screen, we see 3 posts, and then we see a tutorial, a video tutorial on the top line right. And then we see recent posts, and then these newsletters. I wonder if those are newsletters that are not hers, that she subscribes to. Is that what that is?
Okay, so for me, I technically have 2 newsletters which are part of mine. So to show mine off, so when you go to my blog, you can see this is the latest one, and then it'll be the most recent, going from this one then to that one. So it shows the 3 most recent here. Yeah, I should also say that there are different layouts. So like Barbara has, she's made her own and she's adapted it to whatever her kind of desires are. And I've got newsletters here. So I got 2. So I got Dan Think Tank, which is my main blog, and then I've got Project Infant Updates. So if anyone wants to kind of see about what I've written in terms of what's the latest, what's been added, I will admit it's a bit outdated because I haven't done any kind of updates since February 29th, 2024. So I haven't done any updates since then, so I will have to do one later on. But when I was on the blog post here, so I can see who's liked a post of mine, and I can see if they write on Substack, I can see what their publication name is, and then I can go check theirs out. And then there are some that mightn't necessarily write, but I can check and see what they follow. And it says 4 other readers. The 4 other readers is sort of if you subscribe to mine via emails or via an email address and you don't have a Substack account, it will just come up as another reader. But I get email notifications when someone likes or comments, and I get I have a Substack app, so if I get a comment on something, I can respond to it directly from my phone without having to log into Substack on my computer and then have to respond to it there. I can do it on the go, and it's very handy. So this is like the comment section as well. So if I just click on the more comments, I can see all the comments in underneath this one. So like, you had Linda Stufflebean. So, and I can. like
We're
a
running out
common.
of time, and I have to, first of all, it's not your fault, but we're running out of time. Dan, would you please share your screen so that we can find out about yours? I've been
Yeah.
trying to send you messages under private chat.
Oh no, sorry.
Okay. So I'm getting this. So unlike Instagram and Blue Sky and other places, your Substack post is not limited in size.
No, by
Not
no
a character
means.
limit. That's very intriguing because it's really hard for me to speak in short paragraphs, and that's it.
I get that.
Yeah,
And
totally
it
get
also has some handier things. So, like for example, I do a podcast as well, so I can host my podcast on Substack as well. And
so they
what's
have
really
they have podcasting service. Do you pay extra for that?
no, all free.
It's all free. I like that.
Yeah, there's a lot that's free, and it's why I like it, because it
Okay.
surpasses a lot of what other alternatives are
All
out
right,
there.
let me quickly take in these last two comments. So Sean was asking, can you have multiple blogs like you do on Blogger? And I think it's better here on Substack because did you see we could see several of Daniel's? Whereas over on Blogger, they're separated unless you pull in the feed, which you can do on the main blog. And then he says, and as I ask the question, the answer is shown in your example. It's all part of our value-added service.
Exactly. What I should also add there is, so the Project Hiffin one is housed under my own one. So I've got a Substack, so that's the kind of like the top of the tree. And that spans into Dan's Think Tank and Project Hiffin updates. But you can have multiple separate Substacks if you want, but you can do what Barbara did and have, like, I think she had about 12 or something different ones, and you can subscribe to whatever separate newsletters you want to. So she had one, I'm just looking here, she had ones for project recipes and tips and news. So if I wanted tips and news, but maybe not recipes, I can opt out of recipes and opt into news and tips. So it's very versatile.
Right now we're looking at Dan's Substack. Let me ask a question here. Hillary had a good question. Can you move things over? Can you import? Like I could import from my Blogger and pull them over into WordPress. Can we do that here?
Yes, you can. So in the Substack dashboard, there is one section, because under settings, whenever you create a Substack, it's easier if you just go searching for a setting. So if you search for the word import, there will be a section that says import posts. So it says bring your archives from your blog on Medium, Beehive, Ghost, MailChimp, WordPress, TinyLetter, Tumblr, Webflow, or a website with an RSS feed. And obviously, as Google Blogger has that, you could do the same thing with that.
Right. All right. So now Karen's getting kind of excited. She is an email only type person. And this, let me ask you this. You said something about on your phone. When you've posted I personally, Dan, I've got to admit this part. I'll admit this publicly. When Dan said that this was sending this out to email only, I didn't like that because I'm old school. When in the olden days, and internet resources weren't scalable because suddenly you're really busy and then other times you're not, and websites would decide they're only going to pay for something in the middle, and then they're going to lock up and crash sometimes. And so email servers would decide they would decide not to send some email during times when they're overloaded or close to overloading, which meant I would be sending out a notice on Monday that Genealogical Publishing Company is having a sale that expires at midnight on Monday, Eastern time, and somebody doesn't get it until Tuesday, and then they're mad at me. Well, it's not my fault. It wasn't sent immediately. And so, Dan, that's what I was saying. I hate email. I like email, and I need to recognize that's old way to think, and I need to think the new way. I think we need to talk about this another time because I think what I should do is set up a Substack. And maybe by actually doing that, and I'm going to have to make a note about it. If I do it live and you help me, not that I need help. That's what I was going to say. Geez, Myrt, have a brain here. But it would demonstrate to people what it's like. We've already hit the surface notes of being able to say these are the benefits of Substack as a content producer's platform for getting the word out. I would also like to see, and then pressure StreamYard, because I really like the camera controls that I usually have. I would like to see this Mondays with Myrt and also stream over to my Substack. What I can do is go to YouTube and put the link, grab the link and share it in my Substack. But I like stuff that's automated. So I might be part of the group that I've heard of that's petitioning StreamYard, the service I use instead of Zoom, to please do an arrangement with Substack. There's a 20 gigabyte per limit for video blog posts, not to mention, and I know that a typical recording on Zoom, I don't know how big these are here, because it could be, because of all the screen sharing we do on Mondays with Myrt, it can be 800 megabytes. So we're talking per post 20 gigabytes. We're okay. We're under that.
Yeah.
But it's not. Yeah, go ahead.
I know. I'll make it short. All I was saying there is because I know some people will worry about potentially hosting recordings if they had like a meeting or something, or they had a talk on. It's a good way to kind of have it hosted because, if you saw I shared my post New Beginnings, so I can have a 20 gigabyte video in that, and then I can have another 20 gig video in another post if I wanted to. So it's very, I suppose, forgiving in terms of its capability in what it will allow and what it won't allow. There's very little that it won't allow, but obviously it's got a lot of functionality.
Totally. We're just scratching the surface. Now you pick the dark background, Daniel, or Dan, for your. Do you call the individual posts a stack, or is it just that you just have to say Substack?
I don't know the exact lexicon really. I think
okay.
you could call it a stack. So this is my profile page on Substack, and this has some kind of smaller social media style posts. This is a post here that was on my publication. So if I click on that, it will take me to the actual kind of publication page for my
I remember
posts.
this. Yes.
One of the things that I think is really interesting about Substack is outside of the ecosystem of Substack, for me, there's lots of people that might be interested in my content that don't want to be involved in Substack at all. So for them to get my posts, all they have to do is sign up from the publication homepage, so that they just have to visit in their browser and put their email address in, and then they can choose to instantly get all of the posts that I put out. They don't have to go searching for it. So it's a really good way to distribute your content to people who aren't necessarily into the kind of social media or the online publication game. Okay.
All right. We're running over. I love it when we have more to talk about than we have time. But I also hate when we have more to talk about than what we have time for. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for a great overview about a very big topic. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you, everyone for helping. Thank you, Ellen, with the timing of this. I just want to mention, and I'm going to share my screen, that book club starts next. And let me add this to this. Yes, I only locked up once. So in order for you to come to book club, this is the one that we're looking at, chapters 1 and 2. I always have 2 versions or 2 entries for Mondays with Myrt and 2 entries for book club, so you know what's planned. Here's the one upcoming. It will, let me give you the link. Copy that. This, and I will put this in the public chat. If you would like to attend book club, that starts at 1:45, so we're not going to have much of a break. Wow, what a morning. I hope that you're having fun, genealogically speaking. Thank you to each one of you for your participation today, and I love the feedback from the community. Yeah, it's all good. Well, there's nothing left to say, but I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy, not so retired as you will notice, especially with the next episode coming up. Happy family tree climbing, everybody. That's a wrap.